Christian King Combs, the son of rapper Sean Diddy Combs, is now in trouble as well. Grace O-Markay accused Christian of sexually assaulting her while she was an employee on Diddy's yacht. The complaint filed last Thursday accuses Christian of sexual assault, sexual harassment, and infliction of emotional distress while she was working on a boat chartered by Diddy for a trip in December of 2022. O-Markay said she was 25 years old at the time and worked as a stewardess, providing dinner and drink services from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. She said she saw a constant rotation of suspected sex workers during her shift.
She claimed Diddy's son pressured her to take a shot of tequila, and after she took it, she says she became more aggressive and he became more aggressive and tried to get her to drink more. She said things then escalated and that Christian began groping her body and private parts. All this comes as Diddy faces a number of lawsuits alleging sexual assault. His home was raided by Homeland Security investigation agents on March 25th as part of an ongoing sex trafficking investigation. So during that Homeland Security raid, both of Diddy's sons were detained and handcuffed by the police. You could see it in paparazzi photos, I think aerial images of the raid having occurred. But their detention did not seem to be related to any accusations against them personally. And people were quick to say this image is showing that they are being detained, that they're not involved in this investigation in the least. Now there are these separate charges that are emerging against one of Diddy's sons, which are reflective of the pattern of behavior that Diddy himself has been accused of, namely drugging people and coercing them into sexual situations.
Sure, although she is not claiming
that Diddy
that information that she was drugged, that she took a drink, and then that he tried to maybe pressure her, touched her, those kinds of things. That's her accusation. Obviously, we get to hear his side too. It's kind of interesting to say the shift is 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. on a yacht. With a stream of sex workers coming to and fro is an interesting portrait to kind of paint of the situation there. Obviously, as we talked about, what was that going on at the house, the property where Usher was as an underage person. Hearing about the rowdiness, the partying, the women. Underage, potentially, et cetera. So it's just kind of interesting to hear more about the situation.
Yeah, I think the presence of sex workers should frankly cut in the other direction. Many people believe that sex work should be legal for exactly this reason. You've paid people to provide a service of a sexual interaction. There should be no need to coerce, abuse, rape anybody else in the vicinity. But this is what people talk about with respect to cases of rape all the time, that it's not about a lack of access of the perpetrator. It is about wanting to feel powerful by victimizing others, and the lack of consent is really a part of it. So again, we don't know what happened here, but it is a very unseemly situation for this family to be dealing with. Compounding what it seems to be a sort of culture of disrespect toward people, not just women, frankly, but as we were talking about with respect to Usher, the circulating videos of, a young Justin Bieber that we talked about in an earlier episode, who seemed, shy and uncomfortable in these kind of situations, talking about spending time with P. Diddy. But what it means, a broader culture, a pattern, it seems, of having these really outrageous parties where a kind of a sexual participation is expected, if not coerced.
Well, in other news, actor Jonathan Majors was sentenced to probation today, but did avoid jail time for assaulting his ex-girlfriend. The 34-year-old actor will be required to participate in a domestic violence treatment program after being found guilty of assault and harassment.
In December, Majors was found guilty on 2 misdemeanor charges in a domestic violence case, assault in the 3rd degree and harassment in the 2nd degree, relating to a March 2023 argument with his former girlfriend, Grace Jabari.
Right, and I think you probably remember seeing some of that footage, dash cam footage or surveillance video footage. I don't think it was dash cam, I think it was surveillance footage that really did show, I think show a dispute between them where there was bad behavior on both parts, but did in fact show him seemingly committing the assault. I think So Jonathan Majors obviously was set to have a very big role in the Marvel cinematic universe. He was in the third Ant-Man movie and the Loki TV series as Kang the Conqueror, who's this person from all sorts of dimensions and was being set up to be the next big villain. I think Marvel handled this appropriately, not taking action, kind of waiting and seeing how the criminal case was going to develop, and then when he was convicted, deciding to part ways with him, which is probably a huge financial result for him, probably ruinous beyond any of the legal qualifications he's going to have to deal with here, and going in a different direction, and I think probably not using this character anymore.
Yeah, it's really interesting to watch. I think this has been the second time that a franchise has had to deal with not identical kinds of allegations, but some questions about sort of the fitness or kind of role model status, if you will, of someone who's going to be heading up a franchise. There was some discussion about what was going to happen to The Flash. I think we talked about that on the show, and that doesn't seem to have resulted in much less serious allegations, but doesn't seem to have resulted in any.
Well, that versus Major, I don't know that there was a lot of accusations though. Maybe each of them not. I mean, they were kind of similar. I mean, Jonathan Majors was accused of assault from this one incident that was clear. I'm not trying to say it was fine or something, but it was from one incident, whereas the Flash guy was accused of grooming and then fighting in a club a couple times, I think.
There was Ezra Miller's accusations, I think, involved a minor, which you could argue escalated it to be worse. I mean, these are all bizarre qualifications to be making. The only point I was trying to make is that as I understand it, he was not convicted of any of those crimes, or allegations.
But I'm not even sure what the extent of the legal.
Exactly.
And legal action taken against him.
And I think that might have made a difference, although people certainly do argue that there are other kinds of factors that cause both of these people to be handled differently. We should also note that with respect to Diddy himself, there have not been any charges formally brought against him, and this was something that his lawyers were raising, whether or not it is kind of a tell that the raid came before the charges were filed. Does this suggest that the government really doesn't have a lot there? Or is this an instance where they didn't want to basically tip off Diddy to a point where he would try to get rid of evidence that might be damning for him? Some of the allegations have related to the idea that he has basically compromised on some of the people who have been engaged in some of these sexual situations. So we're waiting to see if there's going to be any formal charge coming down the pike for him as well.
Yes, we will pay close attention to that. More Rising right after this.